G'day there, you're watching the Aussie BIM Guru. Today I've got an exciting software demonstration video and also just a brief review of a software called TestFit. So you might have seen this software being advertised recently because it's become very popular as of late in the media and marketing of AEC, but I'll show it to you live today. So just a demo. So I'd like to thank TestFit for all the hard work they're doing on their software. I think it's a really great initiative they're pushing, especially given their software is proprietary. I'd like to congratulate Clifton and his team for all the success they've been having lately, and also their latest round of funding and their incorporation. But the history of TestFit is it was first publicly released in 2017. I couldn't figure out the date that they began working on it. I assume it was well before that, because it is a very complex piece of software. But I first came across it in 2019 on YouTube. I think many people were aware of it before then, but I guess I didn't really start doing heavy research on AEC until around this time. And this is when they just happened to launch their YouTube channel as well. And it recently became incorporated, so it's TestFit Inc. now. And it's securing a lot of seed funding, so it's obviously going to grow. Like, people have confidence in this software, and so do I. So definitely keep an eye on tools like this and this specific tool, because they will change the nature of our profession, especially if you're an architect. There's a real intersection of developers, architects, clients, all coming together, and the role is getting really muddy. No one quite knows who owns the feasibility process anymore. I mean, the architects own it from a risk perspective, but developers are gaining access to tools like this, which give them the ability to actually really cut out the architect from a lot of the decision-making processes. So it's going to be interesting to see how this influences our profession. So what is TestFit? It's a standalone piece of software. It's proprietary, so it's made by TestFit. It doesn't latch on to Revit or Rhino or tools like that. And whilst you can open some of the formats that come out of TestFit in these programs, it's built in its own native format with the intent of optimizing its performance. At the same time as well, there is a trial version available, so you can access the software. You will need to give them credit card details to create a trial account, but beyond that, they're very contactable, so you can just say at the end of the month, I liked trying it out, but not right now, which is what I'll be doing because I'm just trialing it out for my channel. And at the same time, it's a test fitting software. So it ultimately takes a site or sites and it tests them to generate a yield study on the site with a high level of detail and control. And it uses proprietary algorithms in order to generate these layouts. So typically you're seeing what happens after the algorithm. You're not seeing the behind the scenes. Because it's proprietary, and I guess they need to protect how these things are generated to make the software unique. But it's definitely the most powerful tool of its kind that I've seen or used so far, as you'll see. The point of this demonstration is to showcase TestFit, explore some of its features, and sort of help you explore them too if you download the trial, and just give my thoughts on TestFit and its future. As you can tell, it's probably going to be positive. So let's just open up TestFit first. So this is a TestFit that I've already generated. But I'm going to generate a similar one again. So what I'm going to do is just reset and start from scratch. So immediately, one of the things that threw me off when I start is you see nothing. It's just blank. Where's a site? You need to give it a site. So you can either add an image to draw over in order to trace your site, or, and I believe you might be able to do a few different formats. You can do PNG, JPEG, GIF, boom. So it's basically the image formats you can work with. And then from there, you can actually specify an address instead. So I'm just going to pick the suburb I live in, so Waterloo in Sydney. Bang, I've got a map and it's to scale. I can trace over it and generate a site on this map. So pretty powerful. You can also do an aerial view if you want to see the photo representation instead. In this case, I'm just going to do the road view. So what I'll do now is just go to my next tab, which is just drawing some roads up. So this is where you'll see some of the power of TestFit's engine. So I'm just going to work with default roads. You can actually configure all the properties of the roads that you draw, which is pretty amazing. So you can see you might get some slightly different profiles depending on what you work with. So you can just work with default roads or what they call urbanist roads, where you can actually get parking avenues. But for now, I'm just going to work with default. So I'll go back and we'll just start drawing some roads. So let's just draw some streets up. So I'm just going to click and drag and just click and escape to stop drawing. Let's draw up some other major roads, and notice, look at that. It's already figuring out how to connect all these roads up. So you can start to see the power of just the generative algorithms that are running in the background. Let's draw some lanes, which are a bit smaller. Just draw one there, hook it up, just draw one there. It can be a little bit rough. I mean, it's just feasibility, right? Click, click. And once you've drawn these up, you actually have control over them to some degree. So look at that, I can actually just redefine my roads. I can bend them as well. So you can really see that there's a lot of control already available in just something as simple as a set of roads, which I guess from a generative perspective probably aren't that simple. So I probably shouldn't downplay that. But let's work on this site. So what I'll do is just go into the site tab. And I'm just working my way through the tabs, as you can see. I can do more than one site. I'm just going to do one site for now to keep it really simple. So I'll just draw my site. And I'll just click there, and you just start getting snaps at that point. So I'm being pretty rough, and bang, I got a building. Didn't put a single mouse click down. It just made me a building. How quick's that, right? The first thing you can do is you can just set global setbacks. So if you know you just need to be 5 meters back from the curb on all sides, you can do that. If you want to finesse a setback, you can just come in and zoom in, and you can actually dictate your setback. And as you do that, the algorithm reruns. Eventually it runs out of room to create what it needs to, but far out, like it's instantaneous. Like there's no delay. I can't even feel the lag as I do this. That's the scary part. That's how fast it's operating. Let's just say there's no setback on the boundary. You can also give your balcony some tolerance over the boundary. Let's give them a 0.5 meter of tolerance, and you can give tolerance to the actual entire building off the boundary as well. Let's just give it 0.5 meter. So that's our site, that's done. And once you've done this, you can actually redefine your site. So I can change the shape of my site to some degree. As well as that, if the roads move now, my site boundary moves with it. So everything's dynamically connected. So pretty powerful. Oh wow, I can actually just go and make a new site by clicking. I didn't know you could just click. Okay, so I'm just finding new features of this tool every day. But that's scary, I just made a new site by clicking. It just found the boundary of the roads. Let's just do building A for now. I'll just leave this one off to the side, but far out. That was quick. Anyway, you can add zoning conditions. So let's just add a metric. Let's just say I've got a maximum height of 50 meters in this area. That's pretty high for a suburban area, but whatever. I'll just add maximum number of units. Let's say we can't go above 500 units. And we'll just set that to be our zoning constraints. You can see now we get a zoning report. Are we complying? At the moment, yes, we're complying. You now have some presets you can play with. So these all behave slightly differently to each other, but let's just click through them and see what we get. Donut surrounds a parking garage or a parking space with units. Gervin creates parking on site and encapsulates a tower. Parking is just parking. It's a parking feasibility study because sometimes it's just a parking garage. Podium creates a car park and a tower on top. Podium fill will fill out the entire podium and then create a stacked form on top. Tower again creates a parking stack which can go subterranean. Unparked creates something with no parking. Wrap, we'll just try to wrap everything into the site boundary including the parking. And then there's different conditions for wrapping that behave slightly differently to each other. Let's just do a podium fill, which is the most common type of building that we'd probably put on this type of site. From here you can change a unit mix. So at the moment I've got studio and then ABC, which we could just call 1 better, 2 better, 3 better. I think I can edit it under the editor constraints, but the editor constraints give you access to all your apartment types as well. So I can modify the properties of my apartments. So in this case, I'll just say 1, 2, 3, just to make it a bit easier. You can add more types of apartment categories as well. You can also add other things, like we could add a dead-end unit type, and it sort of sub-generates a basic dead-end unit type. I'll just go back to my database, and let's just say we want to change this studio, and we just want to make it so our balcony is a little bit different. So we'll just intrude our balcony, and we'll just do something like that. A little bit ugly, but whatever. On top of that, you can see that you can also just modify these specifically by dimension. But once we're here, you can see we've got an intruded balcony in Studio 1. If I go back to my entire design and I find a Studio 1, you can see it's updated all those instances. So pretty powerful already. You can see that we have a little bit of control over our apartment types. You can create different test fits as well. You don't just have to do one. So you can keep adding more sets to your database. Beyond that, you've got the ability to analyze your design as a developer. So you can actually associate costs to square meterage. I believe in this case you can do land cost. I'm not sure if there's a cut site cost, because obviously digging is a very expensive thing to put on the site. I can't seem to see it, but I assume there's some way you can specify the digging cost. You can even associate rates per month to apartments, spaces, and parking. Spaces being things like amenities and retail. And then just operation budgets or expenses. So you can add it all up and get yields on the site and see the value of your site that you're generating. So if you're a developer, this might be the software for you, because if you've got a good financial model that you can place into this software, you can very accurately estimate the value of a site based on what TestFit returns for you. And you can save these as presets. So let's say I've got financial model 1. I can just set that as a preset. And then I've got maybe financial model 2. And you can just toggle between them. So pretty smart. I think you can, unless this does 2 models at once. Yeah, there's probably more things that someone who does finance actually understands here than what I understand, but it looks like there's a lot of data available. So they're definitely targeting developers with this software. There we go. Looks like I can somehow toggle this. Anyway, moving on. So there's also a section called building input. This area is pretty powerful. This is where you can change particular settings. At the moment, you'll see I've got an elevation of my building. So I can go up and down the building. At the moment, my first 2 stories are parking. This isn't very appropriate. We probably want to put our parking underground. So in this case, I can actually go and just take out the levels below grade of parking and add some levels below grade instead. It looks like I probably confused my design a little bit by adding no parking. So what I might do instead is add some levels below grade and then take out some levels above grade. There we go, that worked. But now you can see we have 2 underground levels of parking, and then our building is now sitting above the site. So that's how you can control that. There's a whole bunch of other settings you can change about your parking to change the layout and the constraints. This is great for countries that have different parking requirements, which is the case. You can also change the width of your corridors. Let's do 1.5 meters, actually maybe 1800 instead of a meter, and see everything just updated to factor that in. As well as that, you can change the number of stories in your building. It took me a while to find that control, but this is where you can do it. And you can just add more stories. And you can see that we're going over some of our zoning constraints. So sometimes you need to sort of finesse these requirements. And you can see as well that it starts making certain assumptions when you get higher up, I think. No, it starts making assumptions about the building itself to optimize its shape. In this case, you can see that it's actually changing the internal distribution of the building. You can also change your floor-to-floor height. So we can say maybe 3.1 floor-to-floor. And the courtyard aspect ratio, I believe, is just targeting bigger courtyards, essentially. Doesn't seem like... Oh, there we go. If you go right down, it seems to just try to fill in the courtyards entirely. That's pretty crazy. As well as that, you can add spaces. So I can add... I've got an amenity block currently. I'll just go find it. It's currently on level 3. Let's bring it down to level 1. There it is. There's my amenity block. If I drag this around my building, notice that it fills in dynamically. I can change its size. Maybe let's make it 1500 and we'll make it retail instead. So now it's a retail block. We can change its color. Make it something different. There you go. You can see its color updated. Its name's updated. You can change a few other things about it as well. And we can add more space too. Let's add retail too. So if you have tenancies you're testing, you can do this. You can change how many levels tall they are as well, which is pretty cool. In this case, we've just gained another block over here, and maybe we'll just make this retail too. And you can make it single loaded as well. So for this one here, let's make it single loaded. So you can just do external retail so that your apartments are internalized. So that's how you can do like a cloister arrangement building. But pretty cool that you can just add as many spaces as you need, and you can put them on different floors as well. So if you have shared amenity spaces higher up or plant spaces, it can do it. Pretty sweet. As well as that, you can turn off stairs if you want everyone above level 1 to die. Otherwise, you can turn stairs on. But there's a lot of controls and constraints about your stairs, and you can turn on lifts as well. So you can see now we've got lift cores. Pretty amazing. You can change how many things the stairs and the lifts are servicing. So you know, how many units do you need per lift to be serviced? We can say 75. Let's say 50. And now we have more lift cores introduced to our building as a result. So we can see some of these things are starting to really influence our design. You can also change some dynamic constraints. In this case, I don't believe I can at the moment because I'm not in manual mode, maybe. I'm not quite sure what's limiting that, actually. Usually you can. I'm not sure what's limiting this. I'm not sure. Usually you can change these. I must have enabled a setting somewhere that prevents these from changing, but you can bifurcate your corner apartments under this setting. At the moment, it doesn't seem possible. But yeah, usually you can. Again, I'm still learning the tool, so sometimes I change things that seem to damage the test. In this case, I can actually just toggle to what's called manual mode as well. So this will actually stop some behavior from working because you're manually intervening with the design now. But now you can actually just change the shape. So let's just say I want to remove that one. Go back to here, and you can see my design's just updated. Maybe I want to move this down a bit. Whoops. You can actually draw extra pieces as well, which is a little bit dangerous. Maybe I can go down here. And it might work. Yeah, so you can see that I can start really playing with my building a little bit more as well. Maybe I don't like this corner junction. Maybe I just want to flatten it out. Maybe I just, whoop. You can undo, luckily. Maybe I just want to remove this segment so I can right click. And bang, you can see that there's a few warnings here. So some places are failing to create balconies. I think there must be a really awkward junction here that I've created because of a bad angle. But you can see that I do have quite a bit of control over this. And if I want to swap apartments around on certain rows, I can. I can switch them around in their respective rows. So you can start to see that I do have a little bit of control over what I'm doing. So pretty cool. I think I can even move stairs as well, which is pretty funky. In this case, it looks like my lifts might not be enabled now. So if I re-enable my lifts, now you can see it's working. But it does give me warnings about things that don't work. So that is quite handy, and I can see I can show issues. I can go to them and see what's going on. I'm just going to ignore them for now because I want to show you just a few other things. The first thing is, the whole time I've been working, I've actually been in 3D as well. Pretty cool. Whilst I'm in 3D as well, I can turn on context. So now I can see all the buildings around here, and I can validate that this is pretty accurate. It's coming from OpenStreetMap, I assume, and it's got some developments that I know are true and correct. There is a tower down the road that's this shape. So I'm pretty confident with what I'm seeing for a very rough feasibility analysis. I can also turn on color, and now I can see that I'm seeing color in here as well. Let's just turn off that site B. I'm not sure if I can turn it off. B, there we go. So now you can see that I've got my test fit that's showing up. So pretty cool. As well as that, we can do various things with this. So I can do a save as to actually save my design. I believe I might be able to save as a screenshot of this as well. Yeah, so I can screenshot a PDF of what I'm looking at right now. Let's just save this here. And I think it's going to try and generate a whole bunch of images of my current test fit. I'll just cross-check what I'm saying there. Cool, so you can see I've got a floor plan, I've got some efficiencies and some basic tables, I've got my parking layout, and then I've got my upper floor typologies. And I've got some tables about my area, my yield, my average, my unit totals. So very quickly I've generated a very basic feasibility study of my site. So pretty powerful, right? I mean, that was really quick as well. I didn't really have to do too much work to make this work. Obviously I'm working very rough. Sometimes people might know better things to add to a test fit study to make it more realistic. I'm not really a feasibility planner, so chances are I've went and broken all the feasibility rules in Australia in this study. But you can just see the ease of use that someone can apply using test fit. As well as that, in a future video, I will cover that you can work with different formats, specifically DXF, SketchUp, CSV, and also you can generate an RSD file, which we can plug into programs like Dynamo in Revit. So that'll be pretty cool to look at later. But that's sort of how TestFit works and how it feels and looks to operate. So hopefully that sort of helps show you what's available. So I guess my thoughts are that it's incredible. Like, I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be this good. Because I've been watching it for a while and I've been really impressed by what they're doing. Even from a marketing perspective, they're making all the right moves. But yeah, I can really see that this is a project of passion and everyone's really driven that works on this project. It's constantly receiving updates. For example, the road tool, that didn't used to be in TestFit. They implemented it a few versions ago and it already works so well. So I can really see that the team wants to push this and make it work, and I think they will. I will be honest that the user interface takes some getting used to. It's not the easiest program to navigate because it's a complex program. And it's not like using Revit. There's no familiar user interface. You have to learn a new one. So that will take some time. But once you learn your way around the interface, it is quite intuitive. There is another funny feature I didn't show, which is sound effects. So there is a little bit of humor in the program as well. So you can enable sound effects under preference. And
stairs.
Yeah, there you go.
Parking facilities.
So you've got a narrator, which is pretty amusing, I've got to say. Like it shows some good humor from the developers, which I was really impressed by. So yeah, you can feel the love in the program, which is really cool. I think
3D context buildings.
I can even just toggle a few settings like that.
3D context buildings.
Like, how funny is that? So they've had a lot of fun with the program, and it shows. There are a few quirks in the user experience that have probably been done on purpose, maybe due to limitations of what they can do or just what they decided wasn't worth doing. Two examples are that the delete key doesn't seem to delete. You have to right click and remove. And also there doesn't seem to be a marquee selection. You do have to fairly intentionally select what you're selecting. So you grab nodes of the edges of roads. You don't select the middle of the road and delete it, for example. So that will take a bit of getting used to, but for the most part, it's an easy program to use and probably a hard program to master. It will be interesting to see if developers and architects that aren't software inclined will take to this program unanimously. My guess is probably not, but maybe tools like this will pressure people to take on software once their competition begins pumping out test fits of sites rapidly and just building up their own financial models to suit this, because I see the potential and I see the threat as well. It will change AEC and I want it to, and I think they have their heart in the right place. So I welcome them into our industry and I really look forward to seeing where this goes and what it does, and you should definitely be aware of it and try it out. But yeah, if you're looking for more information, feel free to contact TestFit or check out their YouTube channel where they've got some demos of the software in various stages of development. As well as this, in a future video, I'm going to be looking at TestFit and Dynamo and Revit and how you can put these TestFit models into Revit using Dynamo. This presentation will be on my GitHub, like most of them, but that's the end of this one. So yeah, really interesting software with a lot of features available. I really enjoyed my time looking at it, and I hope you enjoyed the time looking at my presentation and seeing if maybe this is a program that might help you. I'd like to congratulate the team at TestFit on what they've done so far and look forward to seeing where they go in future. If you're not already following and subscribing, feel free to do so. I make 2 to 3 videos a week and I aim to for a long time, and I'm hoping to share some other tools like this in future. And I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thanks. Take care. Bye.